I think sometimes having a fresh set of eyes, because I see situations where companies miss out on talent all the time over the last decade because they're so focused, they kind of miss the forest for the trees because they're so focused on this particular experience or this particular experience, and they miss out on the talent that, they can learn that regulation or learn there's plenty of information on what the FDA requires, for instance, for a 510K submission, as an example. So I'm just, maybe you could share kind of coming in with eyes fresh things, what you've seen moving from that into medtech.
Yeah, I mean, the areas of medical device where, you need to have traceability, design history file, you've got to have quality documentation, verification, validation, all that is very common in the automotive and aerospace areas. It's the other regulatory, the FDA approval process. It's, for me, having fresh eyes, never dealt in this space at this level, is dealing with the regulatory specialists or consultants. I find out they're kind of like pitch decks. Everybody's got opinion about what your pathway is. And, it can be quite frustrating, and I've actually gotten arguments with some of the regulatory counsel that I've had. And I have to say that is a little bit of a level of frustration, but it's one in which I can't ignore and I got to stay focused on.
So in terms of the regulatory pathway, whether you go to the 510K or, 510K versus a de novo, has that kind of been, and it's interesting what you said too, coming from auto, because really most of the quality standards came from aerospace and auto that are in med tech now. So
yeah. So I'm familiar with that. But as far as the regulatory pathway, and that's going to be a question. Back to your question about investors, they always want to say, "What's your regulatory pathway?"
Right.
And you're like, to get to market. But in our case, I look at this. I've thought about it for a while, and I want to make sure that I make the right steps that don't put the company in a bad way by assuming that it is a 510K, when in fact, all the predicate devices that we can find right now are 510K exempt. But I've had plenty of regulatory people tell me, no, you need a PMA. And I'm like, wait a minute. But I think, yeah, exactly. I think that we have a 510K. I've been told as of last week, hey, you could go health and beauty and whatever. And I'm like, but I don't know. There's something about, I want to stay focused, medical qualified, a device, not something that is just kind of, there's no real proof behind health and beauty. We want to make sure that we've got the clinical data to support every indication we say we can deal with. So in our case, we're likely 510K exempt, whereas we're going to go after and do clinical trials for many other indications so that we can prescribe our devices as therapy methods and systems for those indications as they're approved, which should open up a big market as far as insurance is concerned and any other, reimbursement type of opportunity. So when I say that's the long haul that you don't have to deal with in aerospace and medical and any other consumer mass market.